At 12:18 on a Tuesday afternoon, Elliot Voss locked the front door of his hardware store while two customers were still walking toward it. He taped a handwritten sign inside the glass. Closed, family emergency. Then he left through the rear service door carrying a faded canvas bank bag. His truck stayed behind. His phone stayed beneath the counter. His wallet, medication, and house keys stayed inside his office. Elliot vanished. The next morning, the sign was gone. Someone had entered the store after dark, and 18 minutes of security footage had been deleted. My name is Jessie Stokes. I spent 10 years investigating insurance fraud before opening the Broken Lock Detective Agency in Tampa. Most people think a locked door means the truth is safely hidden behind it. Usually, it means someone is hoping you will stop knocking. Elliot's sister arrived at my office shortly after 9 on Thursday morning. Marlene Voss was 61, neatly dressed and holding a manila folder so tightly that its edges had begun to bend. My mother, Carol, sat behind the reception desk with her iPad propped beside a can of soda. She lowered the volume on whatever daytime drama she had been watching. "Jessie," she said, "this is the woman who called about her brother." Marlene stood before I could introduce myself. "He wouldn't leave," she said. There was no greeting, no small talk, just certainty. "He wouldn't leave his store like that." I brought her into my office. She placed the folder on my desk and smoothed both hands over it. Inside were photographs of Elliot, a copy of the missing person report, several bank statements, and an invoice from a building supplier. My telephone number had been written on the back of the invoice. The handwriting was small and firm. "You knew him?" I asked. "Not personally," Marlene shook her head. "He remembered you. There was an insurance claim at the shopping center a few years ago, storm damage." I remembered it. The plaza owner had submitted invoices for repairs that appeared to overlap with previous maintenance work. Elliot had been one of several tenants interviewed during the investigation. "He said you found the problem without treating everyone like a criminal," Marlene said. "That is not always possible. He appreciated that you tried." I turned the invoice over again. "When did he write down my number?" "I don't know. I found it in his desk yesterday." "Did he ever say he was considering hiring an investigator?" "No, Elliot didn't tell people when he had problems. He solved them quietly and then pretended they never happened." "Tell me about Tuesday." Marlene drew a careful breath. Elliot owned Voss Home and Hardware in an aging shopping plaza in Brandon. It was not one of the large warehouse stores. It was the kind of place where employees knew which screen size fit an old window and which plumbing fitting someone needed after they described it badly. At 12:18, Elliot locked the front entrance. A neighboring shop's camera showed him leaving through the service corridor with the canvas bag. His pickup truck remained behind the building. He did not go home that night. His adult daughter, Rachel, waited almost 6 hours before calling Marlene. By then, Elliot had missed 2 supplier calls and a dinner he had promised to attend with his sister. The sheriff's office opened a missing person investigation. There was no blood, no sign of a struggle, no witness who saw Elliot forced into a vehicle. His phone, wallet, and medication were all inside the store. "Was there a family emergency?" I asked. "No." "Who first said there was?" Marlene hesitated. "Rachel." Elliot's daughter worked as the store's assistant manager. "She told the employees that I had fallen at home," Marlene continued. "I hadn't even spoken to Elliot that day." "What did Rachel say when you confronted her?" "That her father must have misunderstood something she had said." "Do you believe that?" "No." The answer came quickly. Then her expression changed. Not doubt, pain. "But she is his daughter." Family loyalty often survives long after trust has died. Sometimes that is admirable. Sometimes it is the most dangerous fact in a case. I asked Marlene about Elliot's habits. He was 57, divorced, and lived alone about 10 minutes from the store. He took daily heart medication. He did not travel without notice. He did not gamble. He drank little. He had never disappeared before. "Was the business struggling?" Marlene looked down at the folder. "He said it was fine." "That was not my question." She met my eyes again. "I don't know." The store was closed when I arrived in Brandon. A sheriff's office notice had been taped beside the entrance, although the business was not officially a crime scene. The plaza had faded cream-colored walls, uneven pavement, and a row of businesses that had survived mostly because their customers preferred familiarity to convenience. A florist stood 2 doors down. A tax office occupied the end unit. Voss Home and Hardware sat between a mobile phone repair shop and a small restaurant. Raymond Hill was waiting near the rear service lane. Raymond was a detective with the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office and my closest friend. That did not mean he shared everything with me. It meant he told me when I was about to interfere with an active investigation. "You're working for the sister," he said. "Marlene Voss. You've been here 5 seconds. And you already sound disappointed." "I am conserving time." He showed me the service door Elliot had used. "The door was locked when employees arrived Wednesday morning," Raymond said. "No visible damage. Alarm records indicate somebody entered Tuesday night with a valid code. Who? We are obtaining the full records. You know who? I know the code belonged to the bookkeeper, Tina Mercer." Raymond gave me a look. "You have been here longer than 5 seconds." The deleted security footage had been removed from a terminal inside Tina's office. Tina claimed Elliot knew her access code and sometimes used it. Raymond did not believe her. Neither did I. Inside the store, the air smelled of cut lumber, rubber, and dust. Half the lights were off. Rows of tools and household supplies disappeared into the dimness. Elliot's office was small, crowded, and carefully arranged. His wallet lay in the top desk drawer. His keys rested beside a calculator. A weekly pill organizer sat near the computer. Tuesday's compartment was empty, Wednesday's was not. "He expected to return before the next dose," I said. Raymond nodded. "That is our working assumption." The phone was charging beneath the front counter. That bothered me more than the medication. People left without wallets. They forgot keys. But Elliot had deliberately connected his phone to a charger and walked out through the rear door. Either he did not want to be tracked, or he expected to be back so soon that taking the phone seemed unnecessary. I examined the area where the handwritten sign had been taped. The sign itself was missing. An employee had photographed it Tuesday afternoon and sent the image to Rachel. The paper appeared to be ordinary white office stock. The words were written with a black marker. "You said someone removed it before Wednesday morning," I said. "Yes. Why take the sign? To hide the family emergency story?" That story had already been seen by customers and employees. Raymond folded his arms. So the paper mattered for another reason. That was possible. Or someone had removed it because frightened people often destroy the wrong evidence. Tina Mercer arrived 20 minutes later with her lawyer. She was 46, pale and visibly angry. Her lawyer permitted her to answer basic questions about store operations, but advised her not to discuss the alarm system or missing footage. Tina had worked for Elliot for 11 years. She described him as cautious, loyal, and increasingly distracted. "Did he carry cash in the canvas bag?" I asked. "Sometimes. How much? I wouldn't know. Was it used for bank deposits?" "Yes, every day, when needed." Her answers were careful without being useful. "What happened Tuesday morning?" He was in his office most of the time. "He asked me for refund reports from the previous quarter." "Why?" "He did not say." "Did you provide them?" "They were already in the system." "Did he print anything?" "I don't remember." 214 pages were printed before he disappeared. That information had come from the printer's internal counter. Tina's eyes shifted toward her lawyer. "I print many reports." Those pages were printed under Elliot's user profile. She looked at the floor. "What was he investigating?" "I don't know." Her lawyer ended the conversation. As Tina walked away, I noticed a cardboard archive box in the back seat of her car. I mentioned it to Raymond. He had noticed it too. A deputy photographed the box, but could not search it without consent or proper authority. Tina's lawyer drove her home. I spent the next hour speaking to employees. One cashier remembered Elliot asking whether Rachel had arrived before the store opened on Monday. A floor clerk said Elliot had recently changed several computer passwords. Another employee recalled Elliot arguing with a man in the parking lot 3 days before his disappearance. The man was Dennis Cole, who owned a competing hardware store several miles away. Dennis had tried to purchase Voss Home and Hardware twice. He denied threatening Elliot. He admitted they had argued. He was behind on supplier payments, Dennis told me later that afternoon. I offered him a way out. You offered him less than the value of his inventory. I offered what the business was worth after the debt. How did you know about the debt? Dennis hesitated. People talk. Which people? He refused to answer. Dennis was hiding something, but not necessarily Elliot. He wanted the store. A missing owner created an opportunity. That made him unpleasant. It did not make him responsible. The plaza maintenance supervisor, Lionel Park, gave me a different problem. One exterior camera, covering part of the service lane, had stopped recording 2 days before Elliot vanished. Lionel claimed the camera had malfunctioned. A florist employee had seen him carrying a boxed pressure washer into his personal vehicle on Monday evening. When I confronted him, Lionel became defensive. It was damaged. Then why disable the camera? I didn't. The cable was disconnected by hand. He looked away. After several minutes, he admitted taking damaged merchandise that was supposed to be discarded. Elliot had accused him of stealing. Lionel disabled the camera so the plaza owner would not see what he removed. He had created a perfect blind spot for someone else. That made him relevant. But his theft was small, clumsy, and unrelated. By late afternoon, I still did not know where Elliot had gone. I returned to the store and stood near the rear exit. The neighboring camera showed Elliot leaving with the canvas bag pressed under his arm. I watched the recording repeatedly. He moved quickly, but he did not run. He looked back once toward the store. Then he walked out of frame. The bag seemed heavy. That supported Tina's statement that it contained cash. Yet something about the shape bothered me. The bottom did not sag. 2 hard corners pressed against the fabric. Cash conforms to a bag. Folders do not. I asked Raymond whether the store's bank records had been reviewed. Preliminary review, he said. Was Tuesday's deposit missing? I'll check. Rachel Voss arrived at the store just before 5. She was 31 and wore a pale blue blouse beneath a gray cardigan. Her hair was tied back tightly, and her face had the exhausted stillness of someone who had not slept. My aunt hired you, she said. Yes, you should know my father has been under stress. What kind? Business stress. Your aunt said he never discussed it. He discussed it with me. Rachel described declining sales, unpaid invoices, and arguments with suppliers. She suggested Elliot might have left to avoid the consequences. He abandoned his medication? I asked. He forgets things. His phone? He may have wanted privacy. His truck? She swallowed. Someone could have picked him up. Who? I don't know. Why did you tell employees Marlene had fallen? Rachel's eyes filled with tears. My father told me there was a family emergency. That is not what you told investigators. I was confused. You specifically named your aunt. I was trying to prevent everyone from panicking. 6 hours passed before you called her. Rachel pressed her lips together. I thought he would come back. That sentence was more honest than the others. You expected him to return? I hoped he would. Where had he gone? I don't know. Her answer came too late. Rachel's fiancé, Caleb Danner, owned a small contracting company. The company's online presence showed renovated kitchens, tiled bathrooms, and wooden decks. The most recent photographs were older than the dates attached to them. Several clients had complained publicly about incomplete work. Caleb was losing his business. When I asked Rachel whether Elliot had invested in the company, she said no. Did Caleb ask him? Once. What was Elliot's response? He refused. Did they argue? My father did not trust him. Should he have? Rachel's expression hardened. You are supposed to find my father. I am trying to understand why he left. He was depressed. His doctor saw no signs of depression. His employees saw no signs. His sister saw no signs. You are the only person saying that. Her eyes moved toward Elliot's office. Maybe I knew him better. Or maybe she needed everyone to believe a particular version of him. That evening, Raymond called. The deposit was completed electronically at 9:42 Tuesday morning, so the canvas bag did not contain the daily cash, not unless he was carrying something unrelated. 214 printed pages. Financial records. Probably. What kind? We are still reviewing the system. I returned home after dark. My condo faced west across a small lake. The last light had faded, leaving the water black except for scattered reflections from the buildings. Max, my Yorkshire Terrier, inspected my shoes as though Brandon's hardware district might have followed me home. I sat at the kitchen table with photographs from the case. Elliot leaving through the rear door, the handwritten sign, the canvas bag, a close image of his office. The sign was the least important-looking piece of evidence, which often made it worth another look. The writing was heavy and hurried. Closed family emergency. The paper had been folded once before Elliot wrote on it. A faint gray line crossed the lower corner, not a printed border, part of a table. I enlarged the image. There were pale marks beneath the black lettering, numbers. The sign had been written on the back of another document. Someone removed it because of what was on the other side. The next morning, I asked the employee who photographed the sign whether she still had the original image file. She did. The resolution was better than the copy in the case folder. I adjusted the brightness. A partial transaction number appeared beneath the word family. Another was visible near the bottom edge. The paper was not blank office stock. It was a failed refund reconciliation report. I took the numbers to Raymond. He compared them against the store's payment records. Both referred to high-value customer refunds. One involved a commercial saw, the other involved a generator. The payments had been reversed to 2 different bank cards. The products had never been returned to the store. Over the next several hours, the mystery changed shape. There were dozens of irregular refunds. Most involved expensive tools or appliances. Several were processed after closing. Others appeared under employee names on days those employees had not worked. The inventory system had been adjusted to make the items appear damaged or returned to suppliers. Supplier credits did not match. Money was leaving the business in small, controlled amounts, not enough at once to create panic, enough over time to destroy it. Tina had access to every system used to hide the losses. Rachel had approved many of the refunds. Caleb's company appeared repeatedly in the background. Archived photographs from his contracting projects showed equipment matching products removed from Voss Home and Hardware. One photograph included the serial number plate of a tile saw. The number matched store inventory. Elliot had not walked away from a failing business. He had discovered why it was failing. The evidence pointed toward embezzlement, but it still did not explain where he was. Raymond obtained the alarm records. Tina's code had been used at 7:16 Tuesday evening. The security deletion occurred 4 minutes later. She had entered Elliot's office, removed the family emergency sign, and deleted 18 minutes of footage. The missing footage did not cover Elliot leaving. It covered Tina returning. She had gone back to search for something, the canvas bag, or whatever Elliot had placed inside it. Raymond and I interviewed Tina again. This time, her lawyer could not explain the alarm log. Tina continued denying involvement until Raymond mentioned the refund transaction numbers visible on the sign. Her face changed. Not because we had proven the whole scheme, because she had believed the sign was destroyed. "I did not hurt Elliot," she said. Her lawyer told her to stop talking. "I never touched him." "Then tell us who did," I said. "I don't know. What were you searching for?" She covered her mouth with one hand. "Copies of the refund records," she said nothing. "You helped Rachel move money out of the store. It was supposed to be temporary." The phrase had probably been repeated many times between them. Temporary. Until Caleb's next contract paid, until a loan was approved, until business improved. Temporary theft has a habit of becoming permanent debt. Tina admitted altering inventory and refund records. She had received money for doing it. She claimed Rachel had told her Elliot took copies of the evidence to meet Caleb. "Where?" I asked. "I don't know." "When?" "Tuesday." "Why did you delete the footage?" "I thought Elliot had left another copy in his office." "Rachel sent you?" Tina looked at her lawyer. He closed his eyes briefly. "Yes," she said. Raymond leaned forward. "Where did Elliot meet Caleb?" "I don't know." "What did Rachel tell you?" "That Caleb had documents from an old insurance claim. She said he was threatening to report Elliot unless Elliot helped him." I remembered the storm claim at the plaza. That investigation had involved exaggerated repair invoices, but not Elliot. The claim Tina meant was different. 4 years earlier, Voss Home and Hardware had reported a warehouse break-in. Several high-value items were listed as stolen. The inventory records were inaccurate. Tina had prepared them. Elliot had signed the claim. Caleb knew. The threat did not need to be strong enough to convict Elliot. It only needed to frighten him. Rachel's phone records showed repeated calls and messages to Caleb after Elliot disappeared. She had said her battery was dead. It was another lie. Raymond questioned her formally. She continued denying knowledge of Elliot's location. I watched through the interview room glass as she held herself rigidly beneath fluorescent lights. She looked terrified, but not uncertain. There is a difference. An uncertain person searches for answers. A terrified person often searches for permission to reveal one. Raymond stepped out. She is not going to tell us. She thinks Elliot is alive. How do you know? She speaks about him in the present tense without hesitation. She also said she thought he would return. She expected a temporary absence, so Caleb was supposed to let him go. Yes, but he didn't. I went back through the physical details. Elliot left without his keys, yet he had entered a vehicle or building somewhere. One employee remembered that Elliot sometimes kept a spare key in the canvas bank bag. The key opened rental properties owned by a longtime customer who asked Elliot to check repairs and deliveries. We obtained a list of those properties. Most were occupied. One house east of Brandon had been vacant for months while the owner lived out of state. Caleb's company had performed renovation work there 8 months earlier. He denied knowing the address. Permit records proved otherwise. A former subcontractor remembered Caleb keeping a temporary key. Raymond began preparing the legal steps necessary to enter the property. I drove past it before the search. The house stood behind a patch of overgrown grass on a quiet road. Its windows were closed. No vehicle was visible. A detached storage building sat behind the house. From the road, it looked ordinary. That is one of the unsettling things about confinement. The place does not have to look like a prison. It only needs one door that will not open from the inside. Deputies entered the property that afternoon. I waited near the road with Marlene. She stood beside my car, staring toward the house. No one spoke. Then a deputy emerged from behind the building and raised one hand. Alive. Elliot was found inside the storage building. He was dehydrated, weak, and suffering from an injured ankle. Caleb had locked him there after taking the records and the money Elliot had brought. The money had not come from the store deposit. Elliot had withdrawn it from a personal emergency account. He believed he could buy Caleb's silence, recover the remaining evidence, and protect Rachel. Instead, Caleb took the cash and left him confined while preparing to empty what remained of the connected accounts. Rachel knew where the meeting occurred. She knew Caleb had threatened her father. When Elliot failed to return, she told herself Caleb would release him. By the following morning, fear had become complicity. Every hour she remained silent made the truth more dangerous to admit. Caleb was arrested before he could leave Hillsborough County. Documents recovered from his vehicle linked him to the false refunds, the old insurance claim, and attempts to transfer additional money. Tina cooperated after being confronted with the digital evidence. Some of the stolen funds were recovered. Rachel eventually admitted her role. She had guaranteed loans for Caleb's failing company without telling her father. When the debts became unmanageable, she allowed Caleb to persuade her that the store could temporarily absorb the losses. The first fraudulent refund was small. The next was larger. After that, they no longer discussed whether the money would be returned. They discussed how to hide the next transaction. Elliot spent 2 nights in the hospital. I visited him after Marlene said he was ready to talk. He looked smaller than he had in the photographs. Fatigue had hollowed his face. His injured leg was elevated beneath a thin blanket. "I should have called you," he said. "You wrote down my number. I thought I could handle it. Most people do." He looked toward the window. "I was trying to protect my daughter. From Caleb, from prison, from shame. From what people would think? And who protected you?" His eyes closed. "No one." That was not entirely true. Marlene had. The employees who remembered small details had. Tina eventually had told enough of the truth to help, but I understood what Elliot meant. The person he had sacrificed the most to protect had known where he was and remained silent. "Will you reopen the store?" I asked. "No." The answer carried grief, but also relief. I spent years telling myself the business was my father's legacy. It wasn't. It was a building full of things we sold. "The truth is what I inherited from him." He gave a tired smile. "I nearly lost that." Elliot later sold the remaining inventory and closed Voss Home and Hardware. He did not immediately forgive Rachel. Forgiveness offered too quickly can become another form of avoidance. He agreed to speak with her only after she stopped blaming Caleb for every choice she had made. Justice in the case involved arrests, financial records, and charges, but none of those things restored what had existed before. Some cases end with a family reunited. This one ended with a father alive, a daughter accountable, and a locked store that never opened again. People often believe they are protecting their family when they hide the truth. Sometimes they are protecting only the secret that is destroying it. At the Broken Lock Detective Agency, I have learned that the hardest doors are rarely made of wood or steel. They are built from fear, from loyalty, from the belief that silence can preserve what the truth might break. But silence does not preserve anything. It only leaves the damage undiscovered. Until someone finally turns the key.